If you're an aspiring homeowner, I want you guys to really, really hear this. Your words are shaping your future. It's not just about saving up, checking Zillow, or meeting with a lender. Before the plan even starts, the belief has to be there. And belief, that starts with your language. So today's episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast is going to be personal, practical, and powerful, especially if you're on the edge of that next big life step, like maybe buying your first home in 2026. We're breaking down why the words you speak and who you say them to can literally change your brain, your confidence, and your results. Let's dive in with a brand new episode. Welcome back, Ben.
Welcome back. So glad to be back. I just love that we're having this conversation here. So important. You know that I'm just a really big believer and have a very compelling vision for yourself. And I think that's exactly where this conversation is going to go today.
Yeah, I think you're somebody that I probably talk to about this stuff more than anybody else. So you have a lot of value to share on this topic. Let's just jump right into it. I know you had something to just maybe kind of kick us off with about how you need to really just say this out loud.
Yeah, it's you want to believe it out loud, you want to say it out loud. You want to have that compelling vision for yourself because you need to have something that you're going to be excited about every day. It's also going to help you stay the course when you have temptation or you get pulled in different directions. When you have that vision and you're saying it out loud and you believe it, it's going to be easier to say no to the things that don't align with what that vision or what that goal is. Most people have vague goals, and when you have vague goals, you get very vague results. And that's why you want to have a very clear and defined vision, whether
Hmm.
it's buying a home, saving for retirement, parenting, planning, aerobic goals, fitness goals. You want to really define what that vision is. So, kind of going back to the homeowner side of things, when you say something like, "I want to buy a home this year," I want to buy a home this year, it activates your reticular activating system. Speaking your goal out loud helps your brain scan for ways to make it real. And when you say it enough, you start to really believe it. It's not delusional, it's wiring your brain for action. This is a quote that I love. And it says, "The plan doesn't come first, the belief does." And I also wanted to share this. Have you ever watched that movie, King Richard?
Is that Will Smith?
Yeah, it's Will Smith. It's the one that he won Academy Award for back in 2021. Essentially, it's the story of him playing Richard Williams, Venus and Serena Williams' father, and how he parented them, how he mentored them, and how he coached them growing up. And throughout the movie, he is just constantly telling them from young kids, 4, 5, 6 years old, up until they were 10, 11, into teenagers. He would constantly just tell Venus, "You are going to win Wimbledon someday." And he would tell her that, and he would tell her that, and he would tell her that, and she would believe it. And he would tell Serena, "You are going to be the best tennis player that's ever walked the face of the earth." And so when these girls were getting interviewed at 10 or 11 years old, when they started doing some of their first junior tournaments, the amount of belief that they had in themselves, like they really believed that. Venus really believed that she was going to win Wimbledon as a 10-year-old. Serena really believed that she was going to be the best tennis player ever. And all of those things came to manifest.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's one of the best gifts a parent can give their kids, and that's something that is very repetitive with a lot of the most successful people you hear about is they've got a very strong support system at a young age. And there's like this fine line, I think, with that, between being overbearing, like the crazy parent that's just like forcing it on their kid, but
Yeah.
doing it like you're saying in more of a verbal, just very supportive, optimistic, but realistic at the same point, just instilling that belief in them. I love that.
Yeah, and to be fair, there was a side of him that was pretty intense and probably
Yeah.
borderline crazy. But if you're gonna do big things and change the history of sports, like you're gonna have to take a very radical approach. That's what they did, and they walked it out, and it came true.
Definitely. Yeah, to kind of like piggyback off of that, also, it's not just, why you're saying it out loud. It's also just the words that you're actually using when you're saying it out loud
Hmm.
and just being very intentional. I know you've even talked about this on a few of our other podcasts in the past about, kind of eliminating words out of your vocabulary, which is
Yeah.
definitely important. I think that weak language is really what can kill momentum. Hopefully, maybe, yeah, I'll try. You want to, Work on this brand new project? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, hopefully if I have time to do it, or yeah, maybe I'll try next month. Those are all words that are just very lackluster. They're not taking action. Instead just being a lot more authoritative. I will own a home in 2026. Those strong words are not just about sounding better. They're really about setting your brain up to expect that success, kind of piggybacking off that reticular activating system comment that you made a minute ago,
Mhm.
ingraining it in you to a point of its reality.
Yeah, because when you start to eliminate the negative language and you start to say the positive things, you start to believe it. And you might believe in the vision or the result, but you don't know how you're going to get there. But then what will happen is you'll start to figure out and get a little bit more creative in some of the ways to get there. And so using that really soft or weak language, it's so damaging. And I have learned this firsthand. I share this with my kids all the time. We are not going to say anything negative about ourselves. We're not going to put ourselves down. We are not going to, even in a joking manner,
Yeah, self-deprecating.
we're not gonna be like, "Oh, I'm an idiot," we don't use language like that.
Mhm.
Even if it's a joke. I've shared this 1,000 times, but, my daughter is a competitive runner, and she used to say things like, "I need to, like, slow down after the first mile, if I'm going too fast, or I need to slow." I'm like, "We are not allowed to say that. That word is banned from our house, slow. We are not saying that word, slow." Now, if you wanna rephrase that into I need to adjust my pace or I need to change my momentum or my trajectory. I think I know what you're meaning, but how you phrase it really truly does matter.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I love that. Let's just talk about the next part, which is, I think, just as important.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked me to share this part here. Say it to people who matter. One thing that I've observed is that most people don't speak their goals because they're afraid of being held accountable. And so a lot of times they don't share what their goals are, or if they do share their goals, they're going to share them with someone who's not going to hold them accountable. It might be someone that's going to be like, "Oh, well, you tried, or it's not that big of a deal. We'll go get it tomorrow." When you keep this stuff inside and you don't share it, it's easy to quit. It's easy to give up on yourself. Telling someone though what your goals are and the right person makes it real. Now you've got a witness. And so this is always my suggestion. Find 2 to 3 people and tell them what your goals are. I am going to buy a home this year. And both things can be true. You can acknowledge some of the challenges that this market presents while also believing that you can buy a home this year. And if you're someone that wants to buy a home, but you're concerned about affordability or you're concerned about the monthly payment, or maybe you don't have anything saved for down payment, there are ways, I'm telling you right now, to navigate around those. And Adam and I host an affordability podcast or webinar every couple of weeks where we go over some of these specific strategies. Because if you're thinking that way, you're not alone. There's a lot of buyers in Denver that are having those same thoughts. They want to become a homeowner because they understand the benefits, medium and long term. They understand the value, but at the same time, they have real concerns, and there are ways to navigate around that. So if you do want to become a homeowner, say that, believe it, and share it with 2 or 3 people.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, go to denverwebinar.com for that. Last but not least, I'd like just to talk for a minute about just how your words can also create pressure, and that's a good thing. So, kind of piggybacking off of just saying it to people who matter, pressure always creates progress. So, think of it, kind of a different perspective here. By putting that pressure out publicly, as well as even just privately with a few people that are really going to be in your corner and pushing you to get better and do a better job. With those types of people, you can basically just do it kind of like a give and take. Like, hey, you tell me what your goals are, I'll tell you what mine are, and by doing this together, we're going to hold each other accountable. We're going to give each other the gift of pressure by just reminding them and holding them accountable and hoping that they're progressing. That tension is definitely what can drive you forward. And the more people that know, the more serious that you can become. So if you want momentum in 2026, definitely start out by just speaking with clarity and as much commitment as you possibly can. All right, you guys. So let's just end it with this. If you want to buy a home in 2026 or really just do anything big, the belief has to come first. Not the perfect plan, not the ideal conditions, just that belief. So speak it out loud, say it like it's already happening, tell your people around you, and then just imagine and watch what's going to happen from there. And we're going to see you guys next week for a brand new episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Until then, keep moving forward. I'm Adam with my co host, Ben. We'll see you guys next time.